Welcome everyone. Today's course is going to be a detailed course about Azure Lighthouse. Sivan Malvia and I are going to get into the intricacies on configuring Azure Lighthouse with a multi-tenant domain and going over the details and the importance of Azure Lighthouse. Hello Sivan.
Hi, Mike.
Can you explain to the group what Azure Lighthouse is?
For sure. So in Microsoft, Azure Lighthouse is a service that is actually being provided by Microsoft for service provider that can offer multi-tenant management with higher and enhanced scalability for automating and integrating the customer's environment. In today's class, we are going to look into how we can onboard new customers with Azure Lighthouse.
Wonderful. We're going to end up doing a live configuration class on Azure Lighthouse with a multi-tenant domain so everyone understands the importance and also the details and the steps of the process. Let's go ahead, Shivam, and get started.
Yeah, for sure.
So what would be our first step that we got to do?
Yeah, the first step would be like if we have to onboard a customer, right? So in that case, our groups should be ready. So let's go to Azure Active Directory and create groups.
And to ask you, we want to create groups in our tenant domain, right?
Yes.
In our current company tenant domain. We're not creating groups in the client's domain. We're going to create groups in our actual tenant domain first.
Yes.
So let's go ahead and get started on that. So we're in groups, Shivan. Before we get started on groups, let's mention the 3 groups that we're going to actually create. Before we actually start creating groups, let's get into the detail of why we're creating the groups, the reason why we're going to do groups, and the purpose of it.
For sure. So the purpose of creating groups is like, let's suppose in a MSSP environment, right? You have different teams like SOC tier 1, SOC tier 2, or SOC tier 3. So you don't want, like SOC 1 to do automation in terms of isolating the device or, like blocking the IP. The SOC level 1 should be only performing certain steps and should be prohibited for performing advanced actions. This could probably impact the customers. In the same way for SOC Tier 2. For SOC Tier 2, you want a medium-sized privilege permission where they can block the IPs and isolate the device. And SOC Level 3 would be like MDR architects. They wanted to, deploy some kind of playbooks or workbooks. So in that case, we are going to differentiate the role definitions in this class.
Wonderful. Thank you, Shivam. Let's go ahead and start the process. So what we're going to end up doing, there's a new group up here. I'm going to click on this. And we could go ahead and start the group. And we have different options to create a group. So we want to make sure we select the group type as security group type and not the Microsoft 365 group. And what's the reason behind that, Shivam?
Security group is basically for, like if you're performing any kind of actions which is related to the security purposes, right? This Microsoft 365 is going to create something else for you, like related to your inbox or somewhat like that. So it's never recommended to do that. If you are creating a security group, which means that you can assign permissions to them in terms of security, like security operator, all these kind of roles.
Wonderful. Thank you, Shivam, for that information. Let's go ahead and select the group name, Shivam.
Let's name it as SOC Tier 1.
And the same name, I'm going to go ahead and add that to the description. And then we have Azure AD roles could be assigned to the group. Can you explain to us a little bit about this process?
For sure. So it means that, like this group is going to contain Azure AD roles. For example, like you wanted to assign a security operator role onto that, right? So you can just toggle this button as yes, and you can add these roles. Why this is important? Let's suppose within the same role, you are giving the defender permissions also, right? So it would be easy for you that you don't have to create any further groups.
So I'm going to go ahead and select that. Is that the best practice to do, or should we leave that off?
Yes, that's the best practice you could do.
So at this current time for the AD roles, Shivam, at the current moment for the roles, I'm not going to add anyone, but for the members, I'm going to go ahead and select the selected members for the group.
Yeah, for sure. So for testing purposes, we are going to make sure that we are going to assign the SOC level 1 team members onto this group. It's created. Yeah.
So great, the group's been successfully created. Let's go ahead and create that second group. And what's that second group going to be used for?
Second group would be used for SOC Tier 2. This would be advanced SOC engineers. So for example, that the tickets that come in, right, and SOC Tier 1 is unable to resolve that out, so they're going to escalate the tickets to SOC Tier 2, where they have permissions like blocking the IP, right, or probably resetting the user's password, or revoking the signing activities, or running the antivirus con onto the machine.
Great, and let's go ahead and